Hello, my beautiful patrons. So today is the full moon in Virgo. And because of that, I separated just the astrological oracle cards from the tarot deck. So I'm doing your reading just like the same time last month, last full moon, that I did the same thing, just a reading with the astrological oracle cards, and they seem to have a very peculiar message, and I'm loving the way that just these astrological oracle cards are communicating with one another and bringing messages beyond the astrology. So I truly hope that this is uplifting for you, that this is encouraging for you. I feel like there is a beautiful, strong message about channeling here and being the messenger, the deliverer of, healing messages. So it's like healing oneself and sharing what you have learned from your own experience seem to be the energy that this full moon in Virgo, which has everything to do with the energy of Virgo itself, and this full moon that is highlighting all of this inside of us. So I feel like this is a message that is coming through for the purpose of, well, forgiving oneself, but also being a lot more attentive and detailed and mindful about the things that you receive, either, intellectually or intuitively. But I want to say that even if there is this questioning in the beginning of, whether or not this is your own intuition, this is, something else, right? Like the discernment exercise. I feel like this process of it has been depurated. I don't know if that's the right word. It's like layering or peeling off the layers, right? Um, So let me start showing you the cards because they're gorgeous and they're so clear. So I truly hope that this is useful for you. So we're beginning with Mercury. And besides the fact that Mercury is the ruler of Virgo, but also Virgo and Gemini. And it's interesting because the card that is right underneath that is Gemini. So, but we're going to get there. But it's interesting because it is emphasizing the fact that we are talking about communication skills and how our mind is like a very important participant in how we receive and how we translate whatever it is, the message that is coming through. And so what I was sensing from this card when it jumped out of the deck was just receive and communicate, receive and communicate, receive and communicate. It's almost like a radio transmission, right? Being a clear channel, essentially. This is what this full moon in Virgo is talking about. Being a clear channel. It's like this process of cleansing the channel of communication. And it's interesting because I was stuck with this one card for a long, long, long time. I was here shuffling and shuffling and shuffling, and nothing was coming. So it's almost like it takes time. It's a process of cleansing this throat chakra, perhaps, or your mindset or your beliefs that are, it's like it has to be a clear channel, a clear passage. Otherwise, the message won't be as clear. And the reason why it has to be clear is because it's the earth communicating, or you being the translator or the spokesperson for the earth. It's like speaking on behalf of the earth. It was beautiful because, okay, so let me show you these cards like this, otherwise you won't see them, right? So when I was thinking about really anything literally, but between this card and this card, I was thinking about yoga poses and yoga postures, asanas that are it's like they are helping to cleanse the body, right? And yoga postures that could potentially clear out the throat chakra. And so when I was thinking about that, I was thinking about how the body is the vessel that is deeply connected to the third dimension, right? The 3D, right? The plane in which the earth is experimenting itself right now. And we through it, right? Or with it. And so when I was thinking that, literally the time that this card fell from the deck, the word that was coming through my mind was Mother Earth. So here she is speaking for herself, but through you. So you know what I mean? It's like you are the spokesperson on behalf of the earth. So this is where I was a little bit unsure of whether you were speaking for the earth or you were speaking with the earth, having a conversation. It's like both, right? And it wanted to emphasize because of the Gemini card that I just showed you, right? That is this two-way street, right? It's something that goes both ways. It's a conversation, it's a dialogue. It's not a monologue. It's not something that you are, it's not just your thoughts. If you are thinking that this is just your thoughts or you having this deep conversation with oneself, it's not that, right? It is an interaction. It is an exchange between you and the earth. This is what this Gemini is talking about. But most of all, because you see here how there are two sticks in a sense, right? This is what is keeping this steady in a sense. So it's interesting how the glyphs and all of the symbols are showing themselves beyond the traditional meaning of the astrology itself. So yes, the meaning is there. The communication factor with Mercury also being the ruler of Gemini and Virgo, so very appropriate. But it's like, because it's like a bigger thing or like a bigger entity, right? It's like speaking on behalf of the earth that holds some weight or that holds the importance, the fact that it's like there are things to be heard. It's like the earth wants to talk. It's what I'm hearing. The earth wants to talk, but unless there are channels that are clear enough and mindful enough to pay attention, it won't be heard, right? It's like this attunement. The attunement to earth allows the earth to be heard and to speak. And once it does, I feel like there is this, it's like this open channel, right? The open channel. It's like, so there are still, that's the thing. In order for this conversation with the earth to happen seamlessly or flow in a way that it's not going to be interrupted or filtered, the filters need to be removed, right? And perhaps it's some sort of mental filter, or like, this is the reason why this needs to be cleansed, why the debris in your throat chakra needs to be cleansed, because otherwise it will filter away things from the earth or for the earth. So in order for this to be a clear communication, a clear exchange, the last filter needs to be gone. So because the reason why I'm saying the last filter is because this card, so actually this is the card that is, one of the extra cards of this deck that I call the intuition. And the image in this card is talking about all of the layers. This card has so many meanings. Sometimes it comes through as like a sonar or like a sound wave, right? It's like those sound waves that dolphins or whales emit in the water to communicate with one another in a great distance. Oh my god, again, the hummingbird. If you haven't seen the extended yesterday for Aries, this hummingbird showed up in my window and it happened again. So I don't know if it's perhaps it's the same hummingbird, but it was so gorgeous. So it's happening here for you, for my patrons, so that's special. Okay, so going back to the reading. Um, so yeah, because I was talking about animals communicating and suddenly the hummingbird. So I feel like perhaps there is, a way, a particular way that this two-way street is wanting to open up for you to communicate with Earth, perhaps through animals or through the natural elements, right? So perhaps the trees, or perhaps the clouds, or the water, or maybe animals, right? So maybe a bird. It's interesting because Gemini has in it is the air element, so it could be a creature of the air. So if not a bird, perhaps we're talking about the clouds in the sky. Oh, sorry. So going back to this intuition card, what this card was actually confirming to me, what I was sensing about these two layers on top and on the bottom part of this structure, right? It's like this is the channel, but right now it's being blocked, or it's being kept small in a sense. It's being controlled by the filters, right? So maybe filters of logic and reason, right? Because Gemini is very mental. So it's almost like a long process that needs time to be well thought through or cleansed, right? The throat chakra, or even the mindset, needs to be cleansed from these belief systems in order to listen deeply to the earth and communicate with earth. But because it takes time to go through all of the layers, right? So it's almost like these are all layers of the filters that were compressing or closing up the channel, right? It was like closing up the possibility of communicating with Earth. So because the way that I'm seeing is like these two lines here are these ones. So this is like the last layer, right? It's like reaching the center of the onion after peeling off all of the external layers. So here's like this process of detachment, and perhaps you are detangling or have been detangling your mind so that this path right here is unblocked or it's unfiltered, right? It's like there needs to be clarity about where this intuition is coming from, but unless you know all of the layers that existed previously to this that were blocking your intuition, then it's going to be really hard to discern, right? This is the discernment, the depuration process that I was saying, that I don't know if that's the right word, but it's like separating, right? It's like this sifting through, but it's not sifting, right? It's like literally separating and peeling off, right? It needs to be, it's almost like, literally like separate each layer like this so that the communication can flow, so that you get to the last layer, the last filter, and you are closer than ever with your intuition, right? And so in this process, in this pathway of separating all of the layers and understanding what filters were at play or what was blocking you, literally, you might find that this last bump on the road. So actually this is Libra's symbol. So this is the card that represents the sign of Libra. Again, another air sign, right? So Gemini is an air sign and Libra is another air sign. So it's interesting because there's also this focus on, the flow and the lightness and the flexibility, the adaptability of air, right? The etheric condition, the characteristic that makes air so light, right? This is what is being emphasized by these two signs. But actually, because of this glyph, it's like you see here how in Gemini there were two straight lines, and here is this process of detangling. Here it seems like in order for this to be cleared, and I want to say because Libra represents balance and harmony and peace and integrity and diplomacy and like a peaceful environment, right? In order for this communication with Earth to be clear, to be open, things need to be in balance. Things need to be in harmony, right? So the harmony comes once this last bump in the road is lived, is seen, is experienced. This is when you know that you have reached this last layer, right? Because it's like the last bump on the road will allow you to reach balance, right? So it's like hold on tight, because there's something about this last layer, the center of the onion, the thing, the last filter that is preventing you from having a clear communication and open communication with the earth, that it's going to be, it's like by contrast, you'll know what feels harmonious and what doesn't, right? And I feel like this last bump on the road has to do with what is being communicated, and actually it's one of the same thing. So what the earth wants to communicate and open this conversation with you is about a healing process. So it's like the last bit of filter, or the last layer that needs to be peeled off, is already the initiation of this communication process, right? It is the first dialogue in a sense. So it's like it wants to point out that it's going to feel, maybe awkward at first, because it might feel some sort of bump on the road. So it's almost like slow down so that you can be balanced enough or harmonious enough to pay attention and understand that what you're hearing, although there is still this last layer of filter that wants to be removed, that removal is already the earth speaking to you. Because the next three cards, if you've seen already the thumbnail, they are all painting a same picture, because also they came all together, and because I want to emphasize this astrological factor that, actually happened already. Parts of it that I'm going to mention, parts of it happened already last week, Thursday and Friday, the 2nd and the 3rd of March. And today on the 7th actually is the preparation for the conjunction between the two planets, the two astro beings that are showing up here, that are going to be big, right? That are going to influence us personally and collectively. So we have Jupiter, Lilith, and Chiron. So let's talk about these two, because these are the two astro beings, a planet and an asteroid, right? The two beings, stars, the two bright lights in the sky. Actually, yes, this is one of the brightest lights that you can see once the sun is setting. It's like you can see Jupiter with your naked eye, right? So it's actually a very, very gorgeous spectacle. And so what I was mentioning about last week was that on the 2nd of March, last Thursday, Venus and Jupiter held hands, right? They met up in Aries. So, and then very next day, Venus met with Chiron, right? Which is this one. So it's like a very close conjunction, right? When I mentioned that they made a conjunction, it's the exact conjunction, right? By the degree of the sign. So Thursday was time for Venus and Jupiter to meet in Aries. The very next day, Venus met with Chiron. And this week of the full moon is the week that we are going to see Jupiter and Chiron meeting in the same degree. So they're going to hold hands, right? And when we talk about Jupiter, it's the expansive planet, right? It is the biggest planet of our solar system. So the archetypes that are associated with Jupiter are talking about expansion and enlargement and bigness and growth and everything that wants to just expand, right? And when we're talking about Chiron, which is the wounded healer, right? We're talking about a path of healing that goes through knowing, accepting, and recognizing that there is pain, there is a wound that needs to be acknowledged. And so when it is acknowledged, and especially being in the sign, both of these are in Aries, right? So they are going to meet in the first sign of the zodiac, which is a fire sign. And so there is this fire nature that brings transmutation, that brings transformation, that is incredibly potent for the transformation, for the transmutation of the pain into healing. But it needs, in order to grow, it needs acknowledgement, and the acknowledgement brings freedom. This is what the Black Moon Lilith is doing here in the middle, in between these two. So it's almost like this. There is something that is, well, this full moon in Virgo is bringing, plus it's coming through along this week of the full moon when Jupiter and Chiron meet. And you can check the PDF, so because there is this description, right, about what is this energy and what it brings. So if you want to check in a more detailed way, check the PDF about this full moon. So again, it's like the expansion of a healing process. But Lilith, because it's the Black Moon Lilith, right? And we are talking about a full moon. So if tonight, or around today and tomorrow, you can check if the sky is clear. And maybe that has to do with also, like, if the sky is clear, it's like, so is your throat chakra. And it's not like, because if the clouds are communicating with you, this is also a way to, it's like to cleanse the debris, or to cleanse the communication valve, like the vocal cords is what I was picking up right now, especially with this, right, being like this symbol for the vocal cords. Okay, so anyways, there's something about the importance of the full moon, and how the full moon, if you go out in the night sky and observe the moon, you're going to realize that actually we have this tendency of completing the image, right? Because if we really truly pay attention, we are just seeing half of the moon, the half that is being illuminated by the sun. And that's the reason why we see the full moon as this pinnacle of the moon, right? Because it's being shown by the sun, but we only get to see right, half of the moon. The other half is in the dark, is in the shadows. And this is what the Black Moon Lilith represents, is the part, the other half, that is always in the dark, that is always outside of our view. And I feel like, because you see here how Jupiter is actually, in a sense, it faces this way, and Chiron is in a way facing this way. The way that I was seeing this was almost like Jupiter is on the side of the moon that we get to see, and Chiron is in the dark side of the moon, right? This is what these three cards are communicating. But when Black Moon Lilith shows up, it's almost like she is a little bit rebellious, right? So she can make a big entrance, and she can it's like she wants freedom. She wants to liberate herself from this isolation, from this it's like she doesn't want to be in exile anymore, right? She wants to make herself known. And by that, it's like she wants to bring with her the key that she was holding on the dark side of the moon. So in a sense, it's like everything that was hidden, that was shoved to this part of your unconscious that was not seen, was not perceived, she wants now to reveal it to you. She wants now to free yourself from the pain and turn that key, right, towards expansion, but expansion not of the pain, but rather the healing, right? The healing that wants to be expanded. And I feel like this is what this communication is, like the first known fact that you are communicating with the earth, is because you know that you are being, it's like the last big hurrah in your healing process, right? So maybe that's the reason why it's coming through as the last bump on the road, because it can get just uncomfortable until it gets balanced, until it gets harmonious, right? Because it's like reaching the pinnacle moment in your healing journey that is going to bring from the dark side of the moon the thing that was not seen, the thing that was not known, right? So it needs to be seen, it needs to be acknowledged in order for the healing to expand and for this key to be turned. And so, just like I did on the last reading for you, I feel like I'm going to pull from the astrological runes as a final guidance for you also. So let's see what wants to come. That was quick. Okay. Oh, okay. So this is interesting. So we have Taurus, but actually what I'm seeing here is, you know, the head of the bull, in a sense, it's actually the same head of Mercury. So it wants to tie back to where we began this reading, right? So receive and communicate, receive and communicate. It's almost like the more that you talk, the more that you openly are, you know, like this vessel to receiving. It's like this antenna, right? Your antennas, you see here how it's like the horns of the bull are the antennas, right? So it's almost like keep your antennas tuned to pick up the signal, right, of a communication with the earth, because it wants to communicate something, but it's like you need to be tenacious, you need to be determined, you need to like really pay attention, and it's like do this as a job for yourself, like do this as like a commitment with yourself, with the earth, right? It's like use the tenacity of Taurus to open up your mind, open up and tune in your antenna and pick up the signal that is meant for you to, it's like to cleanse yourself once and for all, right? And your body, right? Taurus is also the earth sign as much as Virgo, so it's also about the body, right? So I truly hope that this was helpful, that this was encouraging for you. I wish you a wonderful full moon in Virgo, and I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.